Alright guys, it is Jessica here, and I'm here to teach you guys today how to get rid of red eyes in your photos. This is my client. Her name is also Jessica, and Jessica is stunning, but she got some eyelash extensions for her photos, and unfortunately she had a horrible reaction to the glue on these eyelash extensions. You can see down here especially there's a lot of chemical burning all along here where her eye is just completely bloodshot near the waterline, and then the rest of the whites of her eyes you can see it's really irritating the eyes so that the veins are very red. The overall white parts of the eyes are just pink in general. Even you can see along the outside of the waterline on the actual eyelid there's some irritation. So no problem. We can absolutely fix this and make it look 100% natural. This will not be an issue for us at all, and I'm going to show you how. So you're going to open your image in Photoshop, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on these eyes, and I'm going to start with a selective color layer. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to target this, make sure that your red is selected, and you're going to target those reds on the cyan layer. And the more you go up on the cyan layer, you can see this adds reds, this takes them away. So be kind of dramatic. I'm going to go like all the way towards the edge here. And then when we zoom out, obviously this is not going to work. You can't leave the entire picture like this because it pulled from the beautiful red in the flowers, it changed the color of her dress, it changed the color of her skin, made her hair look green. So we're going to completely invert this layer. On Mac you press Command I. I'm not sure about on Windows, you'll have to Google it. And we're going to paint on at a low opacity. I usually hit around like 28-30% up here. Make sure you have your white brush selected so you can paint on this inverted layer. And we are just going to slowly work away at the red. I don't want to use full 100% opacity because, you know, the reds kind of change throughout the eye. If we just hit it at full 100% through the entire eye, then we might get that problem we had earlier on the skin where maybe her eyelids would be a little bit too green even if we combated the red in the actual whites of the eye. So yes, on low opacity, just start targeting this red. Come to the other side. This is a process. This will not be an easy one and done type deal where you can just change the colors or saturation of something. If we want this to look natural, we're going to have to do multiple steps. It's going to take a second, but it's going to be worth it that we put in that extra time to really make it look realistic and as if nothing had happened. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure this looks good to me right now, but I like to toggle my on and off just to make sure that I didn't overdo it. And to me, I still feel good about this. I feel like this is a good start. So, now that I've targeted these cyans, I'm going to do another selective color layer, and I'm going to target this magenta right here, which can be even touchier. So watch what happens when you take away some of the magentas. You get lots of green. Lots and lots of green. So be very careful with this magenta layer. We're going to go nice and easy, but I do want to the point where a lot of that pink in the bottom of her eye is gone. So this is about where most of it is gone. Some of it we have to go in and clone it all out, but this is about where like most of that pink disappeared. So again, we're going to invert, Command I. And we're going to paint again at a low opacity. Really get in there so we can make sure that we're not turning any of the skin or eyeballs green. Just get rid of that pink. See right here, I can already tell I overdid it right here along the bottom of that waterline. So I'm going to go in with my black, still on 30% opacity. I'm just going to brush it away a little. Right there. That looks natural to me. You can see there's been an extreme difference already, okay? Let me show you. You see that? And we could stop here. We could say, alright, that looks a lot more natural. We could return this as is, but I'm not going to do that. I want to continue to make this image flawless. I do not want to be able to tell that there was any irritation of the eye at all. So I went ahead and merged all my layers together, and I'm going to duplicate another layer to work on. So that way if I mess up, anytime I'm going with cloning or healing brushes, I add another layer. So if I really screw something up, I can either paint it off with a layer mask or start another layer so I didn't destroy everything I've already worked on. So I created my duplicate layer, and I just pulled out my little healing brush here. And we're going to really zoom in, and we're going to work on these veins. Healing brush anymore, especially in Photoshop 2021, is usually pretty smart. And even though, like, you can see right here and right here, it left a little bit of like a weird texture, we will go in and finish that later. The important part to me right now is that I get rid of the veins. And then we'll go in and clean up where the heal brush maybe didn't do such a good job. So my veins are gone for the most part. So these parts that are patchy, I'll go ahead and kind of change my brush size to around the size of the patch and just kind of hit it a few times. Sometimes it'll fix it, sometimes it'll give us some issues. See, it's already kind of smoothing things out just by hitting it a few times, moving it around just so slightly. And that's pretty good for the veins. And we will come in and clean up the inconsistencies in the eye here in just a second. So let's go fix the veins over here first. I do realize that this eye is not in focus, and yes, it is bothering me. But this tutorial is about fixing red eyes and not about how to get both eyes in focus in a picture. Alright. And again, I always like to just check my work before I go on. Did I overdo it? Does it look unnatural now? Answer is no. We like that so far. So now that we have that done, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these layers one more time. Duplicate another. I'm going to grab my paintbrush tool and I'm going to select the white paint and go the lowest opacity, like 3-4%. We're going to go with 3. And we're just going to kind of go in and bring some nice white coloring back to the eye where there's just a little bit of inconsistency, a little bit of patchiness. Let's brighten her up just a little bit. Any pink that is left, we're going to take care of her now. And see how this eye kind of is almost left a little yellow from that cyan layer that we had. We're going to fix that here with this white. And you need to leave it on a very low opacity because it can be very easy to overdo it, especially when you step away and look at the full image zoomed out. You can be like, whoa, those are way too white, but this looks perfect to me. We filled those eyes out. See how much bigger her eyes look just from brightening the whites of her eyes again, giving her back that natural, what her eyes would have looked like if they hadn't have been chemically burned, poor thing. Alright, so we fixed the redness on the inside of the eyes. There still looks like there's just the tiniest bit of irritation along the waterline. And I'm just being picky right now, but like I said, I want these eyes to look perfect as if nothing happened. So the last thing that I will do is merge my layers one more time, duplicate the layer to work on. I'm going to hit Option on Mac so that I can pull up my little color picker guy here. I'm going to pick kind of a darker spot in her skin tone. And then again, on pretty light opacity, a little bit more. I'm going to do like 8%. I'm going to go along her waterline where we just kind of lost some color here. From targeting the red and bringing it all the way down, now it almost looks a little gray along the waterline. So I am just going to paint oh so gently this kind of dark orangey skin tone along the waterline to give her that color back in her waterline. And let's make sure it's not too much. There we go. That looks good to me. Little less here. Perfect. Gave her that color back in her waterline. So now, the last thing that I'm going to do, the redness in her eyes did take away from some of the shine and color in her irises here. Because they were so red, everything just kind of got irritated and muted. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with this little, it's kind of like a dodge tool. And all I did was, to make this dodge tool, is I go add a curves layer. I made it as an action so I don't have to do it every time. Then on your curves layer, literally all you're going to do is pull up from the middle and then invert your layer mask by pressing Command I. And you have a little dodge tool. I'll put it at about 25, between 25 and 30. And you just paint white. And you're going to brighten up the middle of that eye a little bit. Give some life back to it. And you want to make sure you stay towards the middle, because if you dodge the entire eyeball, you lose that natural kind of ombre where it gets darker towards the edge of your iris. You want that brightness to stay in the middle and away from the pupils. So just little U's like this at low opacity kind of build so you don't have harsh lines. So I love that it brightened her eyes up here. But again, her eyes picked up some of that red. And now that I pulled up the color, I can really see the red here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, get my selective color. And I'm going to focus just on the irises right here and the colors I want them to be. I'm targeting the reds. Pull out some reds a little. That looks like her natural color to me. Little bit of green, little bit of brown. See how it got rid of that red tint? And that looks like a natural brown eye again. So that's what I want. I'm going to Command I to inverse that layer. And we're going to paint on, this time at 100% opacity. Because we know that's the exact color that we want for those irises. Paint away that red. Much better. Looks much more natural that way. So beautiful. So, I have 2 more steps left that I would do to any eye, just to finish it off. We've fixed our red. Her eyes look natural. This is a great base to go ahead and start your retouching. So what I'm going to do next, I have this little eye bright action that I've made, and basically it's like a little manual sharpening layer and a brightness contrast layer. I usually turn the brightness contrast layer off. It's only for dire circumstances. And then put a mask on my little manual sharpen layer, Command invert. And I could make a tutorial. Let me know down below if you want a tutorial on this manual sharpening layer. It's going to require its own video. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and I will show you guys how to make one. So I go ahead and at 100% opacity, and I bring that sharpness over that iris so you can see all that beautiful texture on the inside. And then I do the same thing with eyelids and eyelashes. See all that texture, brow bone texture. especially with this eye that's out of focus. It kind of brings us back that little bit on that lower lash line. I won't do it over here because it's already pretty crisp. A little bit in that corner to kind of get that highlight. The sharpening tool works great for just highlights around the face in general. And that is a little intense, so I'll just lower my opacity up here. About there looks good to me. And there you have it, guys. I'm going to finish retouching this photo for my client. You can check out my speed edit that is already up on my YouTube channel to kind of see what my retouching process looks like, what my editing process looks like. Here soon I will have a video just on how I color correct, how I retouch, explaining everything, breaking it down step by step. I'm going to start uploading my entire process and more videos like this that are just special case scenarios where maybe you have a client who has really bright red eyes, maybe you have a client who has really patchy skin. I will be doing tutorials here on my channel for all of those things. So, just to remind you, this is what we finished with. This is what we started with. This is where we started and how we finished. Zoom all the way out and see that it still looks good. Awesome. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned something, and I hope I was good at explaining everything. This is my first walkthrough actually trying to explain what I do. Hopefully those of you who aren't as advanced at Photoshop are still able to follow along. If there's anything that I said that confused you, please let me know in the comments. I want to learn and I want to get better, and I want to be able to provide you guys with tools that literally anyone could use. So, leave a comment down below, like this video if you learned anything, and I'll see you guys in the next video.